And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Football Show. We're here to talk about 4 teams, not 5. Unfortunately, Springfield, rest of the regular season was canceled, but we are going to talk a little bit about potential for postseason. But first, let me welcome our sports editor, Mr. Rob DeArmond. Thank you, sir, for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Running around like crazy. All kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, so let's talk about all that. It seems like COVID has started to rear its ugly head. Springfield was the first casualty, at least their season was, the end of their regular season. But now, Scotlandville and Zachary having their own sort of back and forth in that because of their contest 2 weeks ago. So it's mixed some things up, especially at the 5A level. So we're going to have a lot of interesting things going on to discuss in the show. But first, let's talk about last week's scores real quick. Again, Springfield is not playing, and they have decided for the rest of the season, correct?
Right, and don't know what this is going to do for the playoffs. We'll see what happens. Athletic Association Executive Committee met earlier this week. They said you have to play at least 4 games to qualify for the playoffs. So Springfield has that. It's just going to be a matter of seeing what happens at the end of the season
and where it shakes out. And again, you also said that if you are a team that is in the postseason, but you have some sort of COVID issue, you're out.
That's correct. And the team that you play will move on. So I talked to Spencer Harris, the principal at Springfield, who's a member of the executive committee, said when those brackets are set, they don't want to move them. They don't want to put more people in them. So he said it's one of those unfortunate deals. It's part of the process. It happened to a team in volleyball, made the playoffs. They had a COVID issue, so they kind of had to bow out, and the team they played moved on, and that's what they're going to do in football.
So talking about these scores, Live Oak 38, Denham 31, going to have some fun talking about that one. What a game.
That was a great game. Just a great game.
Central 35, Walker 28, another good one. And then Albany 63, Lauranja 22. Big kind of gorilla off the back for the Hornets over there. So we're going to talk about those things in a second. But do want to let people know again, going to be a lot of rescheduling. We're going to be talking about that in a second, especially for Denham, Walker, and Live Oak, because Zachary Scotlandville, both teams having a bit of a COVID lockdown issue. So first and foremost, let's talk about the Denham and Live Oak game. It needs to be discussed. Has to be discussed. Comes down to potential field goal, gets blocked, and run. And you were there.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah. So here's what happens. And as I go through notes and I'm looking at it, Denham at one point, they trailed twice by 14 points in this game, and they're able to come back. Live Oak went for it twice on 4th down, which they had a lot of success the week before against Walker on 4th down. Went for it twice. They didn't get it. Denham gets the touchdown to tie it, and they go for it again on 4th down. Turn it over at their own 49, if I remember correctly. Denham hits a big pass play. They're basically set up. If I remember correctly, don't have my notes in front of me. I think it was 3 straight incompletions. They go for the field goal attempt with it's a 30-yard field goal, and they get a block. Michael Summers comes through, gets the block, and I think if you see the picture in our print edition, the ball is kind of over to the sideline, the Denham sideline, and Will Anderpont picked it up and ran it all the way back. 4.2 left, and Live Oak wins 38-31.
A wild finish. And I mean, it was interesting. You kind of watch it develop on Twitter, and just, all of a sudden that happens, and you're like, whoa, what? How does that happen?
That was literally, and you're trying to keep track of it and tweet it out and go, wait a minute, I got to catch these people up on all of this stuff that just happened, and it's like blink of an eye type stuff. So I hope I did it justice, but just being there, it's one of those things you go back and you talk to the coaches, and it, when I talk to Coach Beard, it's like, we're there, you're just not seeing it on the scoreboard.
Right.
And then the other part is you've got to ask Coach Westmoreland about going for it on 4th down, but that's what they've been doing all year long. He said, that's my faith in my kids. We're either going to get it or we're not. And that's it, cut and dry.
Right. So, both teams going to be, I guess you can say, well, one team had to kind of pivot this week with some normalcy next week. Denham, a little bit of normalcy this week as well as Walker, but some craziness next week because they had to reschedule. So let's talk about this week first. Coach Beard saying we're there, it's just not showing up on the scoreboard. Well, they're going to have another, we're there test. It's another intra-parish showdown. Denham and Walker is coming up tomorrow night.
In talking to these coaches, I talked to Coach Beard and Coach McHugh on Mondays, just hours apart. And when you go talk to them about what's going on with both of their teams, it's almost. I was laughing by the time I talked to Coach McHugh, kind of chuckling a little bit because it's like carbon copies. They're having the same type of issues. And when you ask them about the other team, you kind of look and go, "Hey, wait a minute, are you talking about you or are you talking about them?" And it's some of the same stuff. Coach McHugh said they're seeing the same stuff with their guys. We're there. You just don't see it on the scoreboard right now. And he goes back to the Central game. He said first half they had two turnovers in the red zone, which could have changed the complexion of that game. Central came out and really in the third quarter and did really well against them. And that's where they kind of took the lead, and then Walker came back and got late score there. But it's just the same type of deal. We're just looking for, and he said you just keep going. He said it's kind of wash, rinse, and repeat. And we want to try to stay on the same thing and try to get it going again.
So this week, both of those teams are going to be facing each other. Trying to pull these things together that they've been obviously both experiencing little things here and there. I'd like to harken back. Just 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were talking about Denham facing real adversity all over the field. And Coach Beard said, we got problems. Maybe not necessarily in that language, but, they had problems, whereas Walker has always been trying to find those little things to come together. Going to be interesting to see if both of these teams can pull it together, kind of like Denham and Live Oak did this past week, for another good football game.
Yeah, and Coach McHugh said it. We're right there. We're kind of doing the same stuff, but I expect both teams to kind of show up and give it their best. Because they both want to see that win. And I didn't mention this, but the win that Walker got over Broadmoor wound up being a forfeit. We had a little something on that, so that took a win away from them. They had an ineligible player due to academics. So that's just something, as I was going through looking at power rankings and stuff, some records were a little different. So I had to make a couple phone calls and figure that out. I don't want to get kind of harp on that, but that's another issue that's been part of the season. But I mean, right now they just want to get to both of these teams. They just want to see where the kids are so they see that success on the scoreboard, not just those little things that the coaches see when they go back and watch film. Right.
So both of these teams are going to have that chance this Friday. Is that at Denham or at Walker?
That'll be at Denham.
At Denham.
Yes.
So that'll be a good game, especially if both teams can pull that together. Now, Live Oak, as we mentioned, Denham gets a little normalcy this week. Going to have to pivot next week. They are playing St. Helena, correct?
Who's that?
Denham.
In next week.
Right.
That's correct. We literally just found that out right before we started recording this thing.
Right, and Walker is going to have to go to Pineville. Quite a trek.
Yes.
So that's all happening next week. But so again, this Friday, folks, Denham Walker showdown at Denham, going to be a fun game. But both of those teams having to pivot a little bit. This week is the week that Live Oak has to pivot, but they are playing Pineville, so Walker might be able to get some film on them early.
You can probably bank on that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what Coach Westmoreland liked from the Denham game and what he would like to see his team do against Pineville.
Just kind of seeing, when I talked to Blaine, it was one of those things where we go in. I talked to him on Mondays as well, and he said within 30 minutes of me leaving campus, he got a call from Scotlandville saying, we've got an issue here. So immediately they start going into where they can, try to figure it out. And he said his son had a junior high game in Hammond, and he said, we're riding along, and he said, one of his assistant coaches and his wife, they're all on the phones trying to find open dates. And he said he literally went all night doing that and into the morning before they picked up Pineville. It's one of those things you see what they were able to do well. TJ McGee for a second straight game went over 100 yards rushing. And it's one of those things where, TJ came to him at the end of the Zachary game and he said, hey, coach, TJ was strictly playing defense. And, hey, coach, give me the ball. hey, coach, give me the ball. He said, okay, let's wait. So he said, we came out to practices next week, let him run a couple plays and said, okay, you're good. You can play a little running back too. So that's, like I said, two straight weeks that he's going over 100. That's been pretty solid for him.
A lot of that ball control.
Yes, correct. And that's something that you've seen out of Live Oak the entire year. And when they have passed the ball, it's been effective enough to move the ball for them. So
they'll be looking again for those, not quite the defensive show out I think they'd want against Denham. 31 points is still 31 points.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I think we talked about it last week. What they were doing heading into that, and I'll some of that was, and I'll turn that to Denham too. Reese Mooney came on and played quarterback, had a really good game for them. They were also able to run the ball, but those are things both of those teams look to build on. And right now you've got to kind of turn on a dime. Like I said, I go in there Monday and we talk all about Scotlandville with Coach Westmoreland, and then the next day I was out there for a signing, and I said, I'll just come see you again while I'm on campus. And so we had to kind of change the whole deal. But the thing that's interesting here is that they found out at about 12:30 Tuesday that they had switched opponents. So by the time I got there, they went out in, basically helmet, shoulder pads, shorts, I think, if I remember correctly. So, because they really didn't have enough film to watch Pineville to where they can implement some stuff. So he said it might be a thing where if this going to, kind of lighter practice in the middle of the week, if it works out for us and it does well, we may keep doing it the rest of the year, and it's just something that they felt like they had to do because they had just gotten film on them and they hadn't had time to really break it down.
Right. And, with a year like this, I mean, keeping people healthy, keeping kids healthy.
Absolutely.
Whether it's COVID or an actual physical injury.
It's, and the strange thing, you don't want to say strange, but it's like you're not, I don't want to say you're not really worried. You're more worried about getting COVID, I think, now than those really
right
serious injuries. And you hate to say that, but I think that's where a lot of teams are right now.
Well, serious injury is isolated to that kid. Whereas COVID is a infectious disease, It can spread. So that's a good point, and it's going to be interesting to see how some of these teams handle this heading into the end of the season. Of course, Albany having to deal with a pivot as well. Let's start first with the big gorilla off the back. Albany's had several great teams over the past couple of years. Laranja always seem to have their number. This year, blowout, 63-21. Tell us a little bit about what Coach Mike Janis, what he liked about that game.
It seems like, and I told Mike, it seems like every week we're talking about, hey, let's play that. Let's try to put together that, don't want to say perfect, but that complete effort. And I think they got that against Laranja. When you look at it, they were able to put together a lot of big plays, and they got a great defensive effort. Limited, there was 2 touchdowns Laranja actually scored. He said one was on just a busted coverage for a big run. One of their touchdowns came on a strip score on a fumble. But the big thing for me is they ran for over 400 yards. J.J. Doherty runs for over 100. Antonio Lopinto runs for over 100. Reese Wolf puts in 98. So that's 3 guys right there. And that's something, without a doubt, that was their best rushing performance of the year. And it's another wrinkle because they'd been throwing the ball most of the time. And he said Coach Carmen Moore, their offensive coordinator, kind of looked at it. And he said after the Sumner game, we kind of looked at it and said, hey, we need to focus on kind of running the ball a little bit. So he said Coach Moore put together a good game plan and the kids went out and executed. That's what happened. So,
well, it definitely happened.
For sure.
So, they're going to have to pivot a little bit. Got a little bit of a road trip to Breaux Bridge. An interesting opponent. Over there in the Bayou. Well, not down there in the Bayou, more, I guess you could say
that's Cajun country, man.
The River Flats, if you will, the Delta. What do they know about Breaux Bridge, if anything?
Here's the I guess the fun part. I was driving over here to record this podcast and phone rang and I looked down. I saw Mike Janis on it, and I at this point, literally the phone's sitting right here. I don't know if you can see it, but that's literally, I got to have it right by me because that's as quick as things are happening right now. You got to be ready. So he called and he said, man, this is like the most strange probably hour and a half I've had as a head football coach. So I didn't know if they were going to cancel. He said, okay, Beauchene called us. They've got some COVID issues, so they had to cancel. I said, what are you guys going to do? Well, we're going to go play Breaux Bridge now. So the plus for that is that Beauchene and Breaux Bridge are in the same district. So he already has a little bit of film on them. The other part of it is like, have you even had a chance to look? He said, well, you look at the film, but at that time I'm looking at what Beauchene is doing. Not necessarily focusing on what Breaux Bridge is doing, but they have the film. So, I asked him, I said, how do you, this quick? We're told this is Thursday afternoon. We're talking probably, about an hour and a half ago, literally real time that I talked to Mike. And he said, right now we're just gonna kind of, lean on what we know that we do well and try to focus on those things.
So, they did a lot of things well last week. So going to try to carry that momentum forward without a whole lot of background.
Yes. And, and when I talked to Mike on both Friday night and earlier this week, it was about kind of putting a playoff mentality there for his team. And just saying, hey, this is it. We're on that stretch run. He said at this point, sometimes you can get to where you're a little maybe not focused because you're not quite to the playoffs yet. But he goes, we want to have that focus right now to where when we go into the playoffs and we get there, we know what to expect and our guys have the right mental approach to what's happening.
So that it's going to be interesting to see how these teams handle. Because this is a little bit of adversity. I mean, and by a little, it's a lot.
By a little, and it's not just these guys. It's happening all over the state. Just
all over the country.
It's
really
all over. I mean, it's not just here. So this is for these kids. And when I talked to Mike about it, he said we made a concerted effort as a coaching staff to say if we had an opportunity to play somebody, we're gonna go play just to give the kids the opportunity to get as close to a normal season as they can right now. He said, we don't want to sit around on Friday, sit at home when we know there's an opportunity to go play. And they want to do it for the kids. He said, we said that from the get-go as a coaching staff. We want to make sure we play.
Well, and it looks like all three 5As are doing it as well. Unfortunately, Springfield, one of the teams that is facing a COVID problem, touching base on them one last time. They are, of course, not playing this Friday, not playing next Friday. They do have the requisite amount of games to make the postseason if they get enough power points, if they determine they'll be eligible. So time's going to tell on that one. Right. But unfortunately, Bulldogs going to be sitting at home. Want to cover these real quick, these scores from last week, and then talk about some of the pivoting we got going on here. Live Oak kind of pulls one away from Denham 38-31 on that big last play. You talked about it.
Great game. When you talk to the players and the coaches, it's like, man, this is – and I said, guys, this is why I do what I do, and it's why you guys do what you do. I know that doesn't make Denham feel any better in a loss, but, I mean, it's just a phenomenal high school football game on both sides.
And then Central finding a way to stay away from Walker, 35-28. Close game there. And then Albany 63, Lauranja 21. Huge game for Albany and Coach Janis. That's a big win over a program kind of like Alabama and LSU that just had their number for years.
Yeah, and they just like I said, they kind of when I texted Mike, I saw the score, I was like, wow, and then when he told me, some of the plays as we're going through it, I'm just literally going, wow. He goes, yeah, it was a pretty good show, and it was a lot of guys getting involved too. So that was another part of the deal. It wasn't just this handful of people. It was a lot of guys you hadn't heard their names all year long, and they're getting involved too.
So talking about these pivots real quick, Albany traveling to Breaux Bridge, excuse me. A lot of B's there.
You got it.
Albany traveling to Breaux Bridge this week, expected to face Hannon, which is a district foe.
Yes, and if you look at things the way, Hannon beat Sumner last week, so they've got it. So there's a possibility here if they come back and everything works out to where Hannon gets a win. There's a possibility, that could be for a part of the district title. And I think if I remember right, that's at Albany next week.
Oh, big home game coming up next week. So that's going to
be. I can check and make sure right now before we. Let's see. Let's make sure.
Yeah,
that's why we keep the computer in front of us, folks. Hannon at Albany, yes.
That's a big one.
Yes.
So Hannon will be at Albany. Big chance if Hannon wins this Friday, that'll be for a share of the district title. So it's going to be that'll be a big game. Live Oak, will host Pineville this week. Pivot, and then next week we'll play Central as long as all things stay the way they are right now. And we have no more COVID.
I don't wish it on anybody. I'm just hoping you cross your fingers and you hope that's the game you get Friday. But this is literally like I've talked to several coaches. You can't plan ahead. You literally cannot plan ahead.
Right.
And now we're seeing it.
Denham and Walker getting to experience or keep a little bit of normalcy this Friday. They will be playing each other at Denham Springs. However, Denham has St. Helena at home, so at least they get to keep that, but it is an unfamiliar foe. Walker will be at Pineville, so they're gonna travel that way. So keep your eyes and ears on our Facebook page and our website. Trying to keep an eye on what's going on with these teams. Mr. DeArmond over here keeping up with it as best he can.
I've got to tip my hat to these coaches and everybody for keeping us abreast of what's going on. I literally am sitting here with my phone. I'm texting all the time, calling all the time, and I just want to tip my hat to the coaches that we're working with in terms of getting us this information so we can get it to you so you guys know what's going on.
And again, you can always follow Rob on Twitter or check our Facebook page. Want to thank him for joining us. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. And one last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Livingston Parish football show. This is week 7, second to last week of the regular season. Hopefully, we're going to have some teams in the playoffs. We're going to see how COVID plays into that. But you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. And of course, we are online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We do hope you guys enjoy your Friday. Going to have some good football. Again, a lot of these teams are pivoting, but still have that last intra-parish showdown between Walker and Denham. So that should be fun. Also, Live Oak and Albany will be facing some unfamiliar foes, but it should be some good football, especially since both teams starting to pull it all together, performing at a high level. We do hope you guys enjoy these shows. Please share them, and we will see you next time.